guys, Forever Retro 82 here. Hope you're all doing well this Friday. It's very nice outside here where I'm at. It's in the 60s. Sun's shining, it's pretty. You can see my room's bright and it's also dirty. It's better than it was, say, a week ago. Sometimes I just get lazy and I just don't want to pick up shit. Anyways, that's not what this is about. I'd like to talk about some of my beginnings as a gamer. As you all know, or most of you may know, I'm 35 years old. I was born in 1982. And it was obviously a different time in both technology and with what things people used to do for fun. And one of the growing trends during that time frame was video gaming. Excuse me. I apologize. Now, the amazing thing is I'm trying to find a way to start this video because my mind is just scrambling with ideas and things, and I want to find a way to collaborate this that's both informative and enjoyable to you guys. This video may be a little long as well, so hopefully you have time to spare, and if you like stories, this video will probably be good for you. However, if you're a person that is offended by old tech or things of that nature, you're better off not watching this video. Why the hell are you watching my channel if you don't appreciate old tech? This video is pretty much strictly for people of old tech who grew around during this era and had fun during said era. So I'll try to make this story as full and enjoyable as possible. Yeah, that's probably not going to happen because my brain just fucking goes everywhere. So anyways, enough of personal gripes. Let me begin my story, and then we'll go to gameplay footage and all that. Okay, so that's how it's going to go. So forgive me for the crudeness of this. Anyway, my first console was not the 2600, believe it or not. My first console was the Atari 5200. Now, as you know, the Atari 5200 was released in 1982, the year I was born. And from what my dad told me when I talked to him, one of the last times I talked to him, he explained to me the reason that they bought an Atari 5200 was, the Atari was looked at as a toy, and it was a very popular name. Now, they weren't too current with trends at the time or failures of devices and things of that nature. All they did was they picked up an Atari 5200 and like 3 or 4 games. Those games were Centipede, Missile Command, Pac-Man, and I want to say Pole Position, but I'm not entirely sure. Oh, and soccer, so there was 5. Yeah, 5 games. Now, I could show those on an emulator, but the thing about it is I can't find an emulator that can control 5200 real well because it tries to mimic what the console is known for. However, if you want to see those games in a footage sense, there's plenty. I looked it up on YouTube. There's a shit ton of them. And they look very similar to, if not better than their arcade counterparts. I mean, the only thing about the 5200 compared to the arcade is it's more pixelated because of lack of technology. But they're very damn close, if not better, or along the lines and parallel to the arcade. Games like Berserk and Pole Position looked really awesome on the 5200. So I'm not going to be showing any 5200 footage, unfortunately, but I will explain things that we've done with the 5200 that my family and I would do. Now, my brother and sister, they weren't fans of video games, believe it or not. They were more in tune with playing with their friends outside, doing things that didn't revolve sitting in front of the television. That was this guy. In fact, my first gaming experience that my collective conscious can remember is playing the arcade version. It was a baseball game, and I want to say it's RBI baseball, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I just remember I was really young, and there was a baseball game, and then across from it was Burger Time. And I remember that because my brother and sister really liked that game. when that was their first time playing it, and they were just talking about how fun it was and stuff. And of course, since they were on a cabinet of their own, the cabinet that was not being played was, I guess, RBI baseball. I just remember the place was some sort of flea market, and it was a place pretty far away. It was this big white building. I don't remember exactly the location. I wish I could remember, but I was very young. I had to have been at least 3 or 4 years old. But the games I played in at home with the Atari 5200, the game I played the absolute most was real sports soccer. And I didn't understand the concept of soccer. No. I would just get the ball and just kick it in either goal and as many times as I felt necessary. Because when you're a kid, you don't, I mean, especially that young, you don't really understand goals or rules or anything like that. The only rule you know is no, don't do that. No, don't touch that. Don't eat that. You know, minuscule shit. You don't have the, I guess, the intelligence or of the development skills you receive as a kid to understand rules. So I would just kick the ball in the goal and back and forth and have a blast for about a half hour, and then I would call it quits and play something else. My mother enjoyed Centipede. She played that game at least an hour a day because my dad was working. He worked at Michigan Metalcraft. I don't think that place doesn't exist anymore. I know that. And it was a pretty cool place. They would have like these outings where there was a haunted house and a few little things like animals you could pet and shit. It was pretty cool. It was an awesome barbecue. I'd never seen a company do that because they don't do that kind of shit no more. Now they just throw little parties where they cater food and maybe play a little bit of music of your choice, and that's it. It's nothing like it was back then. Back then it was, I think, more enjoyable, but that's just my opinion. I live in the past. Forgive me. Or don't. I don't care. Whatever. But my father and I had a special bonding on a certain game. That game was Missile Command. We played that game so much so that we would have marathons. Like, we would start at like 5 or 6 at night, and we would just take turns passing the controller back and forth and just bullshitting about just stuff that we seen or done or just stuff. I mean, I don't even remember half the conversations we had. I just knew we just bullshitted. He talked to me like I was an adult because my dad didn't have that whole, oh, he's this age, he shouldn't know about this, or he's that age, I can't talk about that. He would just talk to me like he would his chums. Now, my dad wasn't as crude as I was, though. Yeah, he would have his negative side, and I kind of inherited that from him. Obviously, known in my past videos and vlogs and all that kind of things. All those things that I've done in the past on both YouTube and other social medias that I've been to, or places that you can be seen on the internet. So I inherited that from him because he's a negative motherfucker. So while my siblings would be playing outside, I'd be playing Missile Command with my father. And it got so, we did it so much. We would start at like 4 or 5 in the afternoon and play all the way until about 1 or 2 in the morning. Yeah, Missile Command. A very basic game, but it was so addictive at the time that we were in love with it and we enjoyed it. I had a wonderful time with Missile Command with my father. But unfortunately, all things come to an end. And not just because things change, because things happen. And there's a story behind that, and I'm about to get to it. Me and my father were about to play some Missile Command, right? We were playing the game, and all of a sudden, we started smelling smoke. We smelled electrical fire. And within maybe 3 or 4 minutes of that smell, the literal power supply, that big old brick, caught fire. Of course, my dad took his shoes and socks off and used his socks to beat it down because he didn't. That comforter they had cost like $200 on their bed, my parents, and he didn't want to, grab anything else like a blanket or a towel or anything like that. He just grabbed his socks and beat the shit out of the fire. He got it out though. He turned off the power strip. I think that was a power strip, or else something like one. I don't remember if there were power strips back in 1985 or 6, whatever year we did that. I don't even remember the year approximately, but it was pretty bad. So that was the end of that. My parents we had a yard sale later that year before the end of summer, and they just sold it as is. They would, people who were interested in it, my parents would say the power supply burned, but we have everything else that goes with it. Someone did buy it, and they sold it for about $40. Games included, and our controllers never broke. So it's weird because everyone on the internet has stated during their experience with the 5200, their controllers broke. Mine never did, and I had the 4-port version of the Atari 5200, not the 2-port, because like I said, my parents bought it when it was brand new, when Mom found out she was pregnant with a child, and unlike the ones before me who died and the one after me that died, I was the one that was healthy and was shot out. Anyway, so there's that. The 5200 was no more. The gaming sessions of that were, at that time, no more. So where do we go from there? Well, believe it or not, I've had experiences going to my cousin's house up in Grayling, Michigan, playing the Atari 2600. And I thought it was a pretty cool system, but I never would mention it or knew it by name at the time. One day my dad came home. It was before Christmas. He brought home this, what looked like a toolbox. And on it said Atari 2600. I'm like, what's that? And he had a handful of games. They weren't in the boxes either. He got them secondhand or something. He brought us in the living room. He's like, hey guys, I want to show you something. And, we were all puzzled and didn't know what was going on. I mean, I just noticed this little toolbox thing with that logo on it. And he says, so the guys at my work bought this for you, since Mom and I had to pay for a lot of things and can't get you guys and we can't have a proper Christmas because, they were honest with us first and foremost that Santa's not real. She's like, so Christmas is not going to be as well as it usually is, but the guys at my work got you guys all something for Christmas that you can enjoy. Well, first of all, there was that, but there was also board games. They bought us Sorry, Thin Ice, and I can't remember the other. Connect 4. Yeah, there we go. Connect 4. So the guys at his work, they would buy each other's kids something because that's how cool they were with each other. That's why I kind of was sad when my dad was laid off, and I think Michigan Middle collapsed soon after that. I'm not entirely sure. I was a young kid. I didn't, grasp concepts of things. Anyways, so there's that. And, so the first thing I said, I looked at it, I'm like, Dad, what's that? He's like, oh, this is, he's like, remember that system you and I used to play? I'm like, yeah, the Atari system. He's like, well, this is something similar to it. Now, it doesn't look as good, but it still plays the same games that you and I used to play. One of the games he picked up, of course, was a cartridge of Missile Command, which I couldn't find for this video, unfortunately, because I am going to show the console and a cartridge, so you have a basic understanding what it is, unless some of you who look up game videos and want to learn of videos probably already know what it looks like and everything, but, this is my take. And I was like, okay, so he's like, what do you guys want to do? Do you guys want to open the board games and look at them, or do you want to open this? And my sister goes, well, Scott seems very interested in that, so why don't we go with that first, and then we'll look at the other things that you got from the guys from your job. So we opened it, and this was it. This is known as the Atari 2600 Junior. This is that same console, the exact same console that I pulled out, or my dad pulled out, of that toolbox looking thing. Now, if you want to look at the toolbox, Google Images. I would have put it up on this video, but I want to spend more time just focusing on talking about the aspects of this and everything else without having to pop up images and stuff like that. Those are usually reserved for Let's Plays and stuff like that. But anyways, that aside, this was considered mine because, like I said, my brothers and sisters did not really care about video games. Now, we would play video games together, yes, but my father got this, and I was excited because I'm like, well, you know, I'm like, hey, it's a new thing I can sit in front of the TV and play. First of all, I was happy about the joystick. I couldn't find that either. I have my original joystick as well, believe it or not. It's basically just a joystick with a button on it. And you've probably seen plenty of images, or you know what it was. And you can also use a Sega Genesis controller in this too, for those who don't know. And the B button, even the 6-button controller works. Just use the B button and it recognizes it just fine. So what you have here is this is the junior model, by the way. I should have mentioned that straight away, but we'll go ahead. Now the thing is that I noticed is most junior models, the Atari logo is smaller, and it even says Junior or 2600 within that metal sheet, that metal whatever the fuck you call this display. But this one's weird. On this side, this is where the 2600 logo is, right? And I never seen one looking like this except for this one. I never saw another model that was just like this. Some of you may have, and if you have, or you had one just like this with the display that is just like this, let me know, because I'm curious. Anyways, it's a very simple system. The original 2600 was a 6-switch system that had just many different functions. You had the difficulty switches, you had the reset switch, you had the power, and of course the black and white switch. And well, this thing's in a way still has the 6-switch system, but it's done in a more modern style. For instance, this right here, damn it, okay, this right here is your power. Obviously, you turn it on, and the LED right there will turn red. This is your black and white TV switch. Yeah, back then, not everyone had a color TV. Then this is your reset button and your select button. Now, these were switches on the original 2600. Such were these. But there are switches on here, and they reside in the back. These are the difficulty switches. There's difficulty A and difficulty B. Oh, and there's also a channel selector on this switch right here. It's obviously it's RF only, but you know, thanks to modern technology, there's a way you can take that video out connector and convert it into a coaxial and hook it up to your TV. Now here's the problem. My coaxial is broken on this television, therefore I cannot play this. However, I do have 2 other CRT TVs. Once I get them out of storage, I'm going to pop one probably in my bedroom and probably hook this up to it. So I can play some Atari games before I go to bed. Or something like that, you know? And of course, the middle has this really weird 3.5. I'm not entirely sure of the size. You know, let me know in the comments if that's correct. It's a 3.5 jack for power, and I do have the original power supply. I didn't grab it out because I got a lot of shit. it would just take too long, and so you can say I'm a slacker. But you can find out all that on Google Images if you need to see that. So, anyways, this is an Atari 2600 cartridge. This is Jungle Hunt. This is the original copy of Jungle Hunt that I got as a kid. It was actually one of the first games my father bought me. Notice it's actually quite small, you know. Yeah, this looks like a brick of cheese, or I don't know, just or a deck of cards. I want to say a deck of cards would be more of a suitable name for the size comparison, like a half deck cards or some shit. Anyways, it was very simple. You just popped in your cartridge, flipped the switch on, there's your game. Now, the one thing I fucking hated about the Atari, the 2600 in particular, I gotta clean this cart slot. It's holding, it has like a real tight grip. It ain't supposed to, but this one does. I gotta clean it, probably clean the outer edges. I haven't played it in a couple years, so since I lived back at home in Michigan. The thing that pisses me off about the Atari is most games you would have to have the console nearby, much like the Sega Master System, to pause the game. To start games on the Atari, you would have to hit the reset switch or press the reset button on this model. I fucking hated that because you would have to get up from your seat to press the button, and to start a new game, once again, you have to get up and press the button. Now, it's fine if you don't mind getting up and doing that. I mean, it gives you a little bit of exercise while you're playing a video game, but the convenience factor is not there. But a lot of games did incorporate pressing the button on the joystick to start a game. But I don't think there's any way to continue it. Once the game ends, you would have to reset the console and then press the button again to start. At least that's what it seems like it would be. So, that's the story portion of this. I'm trying to think if I left anything out. Oh, well, we might as well talk about Nintendo, because Nintendo did happen shortly after this. Let's go ahead and add that to the story before we get into the games that I spent. The games on the show are the games I spent the most time with, and what they meant to me, and just basic gameplay and a brief synopsis of what it is and how many hours I spent with it. Little tidbits and maybe a little bit of storytelling with said games. So, I want to say the spring of the following year, or summer in the following year, somewhere around there, my mother's job gave her 2 $100 gift certificates. No, they didn't give it to her. She won them in a raffle. Okay? And the new thing at the time was the Nintendo Entertainment System. And, well, Mom and Dad already said, this is the big thing. Like, the kids are going to eventually notice it, and, well, we can't afford it because it was just too expensive. My parents, they worked at very hit and miss jobs. I mean, there were no advancements or anything. They would just, like, my mom would clean offices at night, and my dad worked at Michigan Middlecraft still. And then, unfortunately, not too long after that, he got laid off. But that's totally that's not part of the story. So my mom, we would have to go. There's this place called Universal Mall in Michigan. It was I think DeQuinder Road, between 10 and 11 mile. It's been a long time. That place is tore down now. Now I think it's just a movie theater, but I heard they closed that down too. I don't know if they're renovating it or they just got rid of it entirely. Let me know in the comments below if you're from there. Anyway, so my mother sat us down, and she's like, okay, okay, guys, I won these. This is $200 of gift cards, and she's like, this is basically the same thing as money. The difference is you can only use these at the place it's intended for. So this is for Universal Mall. I can spend this at Universal Mall only. She always tried to explain things the best she could so we would have a general understanding of how things work. My brother and sister already knew. They're actually pretty smart when it comes to understanding things, but when it comes to living life, they're both dum-dums. Okay? Kind of like, I'm a dum-dum when it comes to academics, but I'm pretty street smart, because I've been through a lot of shit in my time, especially in my youth. That's a story for another time. So, anyways, my mother sat us down, and she's like, I'm thinking about getting you guys a Nintendo with this. And suddenly I felt an adrenaline rush from hell just hit my head in, like, the best way. I was like, I'm like, really? We're going to get a Nintendo? And then she's like, hold on. She's like, that's what I'm thinking about. I'm going to see if there's anything I want with this money, because I've earned this. No, you did. You won it in a fucking raffle. Anyway, she's like, I'm going to see if there's anything I want with this. And if there's anything that I'm interested in, I'll get you guys a Nintendo. So she went to the mall, I think that Saturday, which was like 3 days after she got those gift cards. And she went with my Aunt Bobby at the time. She passed away recently. I don't care, because after I turned 18, I lost pretty much all contact with all my family. They can all fuck off. Anyways, she passed away. Anyways, so my Aunt Bobby and her went to Universal Mall. She came home with nothing. And I was like, Mom, you didn't find anything you wanted? She's like, nah, I pretty much, I can get most of this stuff at the thrift store. So she's like, I'll tell you what, next weekend we'll go and see if we can find a Nintendo. She's like, I tried to get you guys one there, but they were sold out. That was a common thing in the 80s. And also, again, with the Wii in 2006. Couldn't find one of those for a while either. So, about a week later, we went up there. They had a KB toy store. We went up there, no Nintendos. Went there the following weekend, no Nintendos. This went on for about maybe a month. And then finally, my dad came home from work. This is the funny thing. His friend worked part-time, other than Michigan Metalcraft, at Universal Mall, one of the, I can't remember the exact store. He told my father, they got Nintendos today. Get your ass up there. Unfortunately, he got off of work early, though. He kind of lied to his boss about a family emergency, so they let him off early. Unfortunately, we still couldn't go until about 5 o'clock at night because something happened. I don't remember, and I keep trying to remember this so I can, make the story more clear and full detail. Something happened that we couldn't go right away, but we were able to go around 5 o'clock. And when you're a kid, disappointment hits you like threefold compared to when you're an adult. When you're an adult, you're just like, fuck, okay. And then you go about your business. When you're a kid, you actually cry from disappointment if shit goes awry. So we went to Universal Mall, and they had them. They only had 7. So my dad went to one of the workers and basically bribed him. He's like, could you put one of these in the back? He's like, and he showed the gift certificates. He's like, I got to get these notarized and approved by management of this mall, because you had to do that back then. You have to go literally to the manager's office. They would have to notarize it and sign it for you to use them, like a check. And I'm just like, what? Now when I think about it, I'm like, the fuck is this shit? So he did it. And then the guy had the balls to say, he's like, oh, I had a Nintendo when I was a kid. No, you didn't. It wasn't around when you were a kid. And he's like, and it broke, so I hope you take better care of it. He probably meant something else. Like, I mean, the guy was like in his 20s. I mean, I don't know. Maybe the Channel F, Fairchild Channel F was his thing. I don't fucking know. Anyways, we just didn't care. We wanted to get our shit and go. So we got our shit notarized and signed. We rushed to KB. The guy was still there, and my dad's like, he's like, okay. He's like, can I get the system? He's like, yeah, let me go grab it for you. So he went in the back, grabbed the system. He had to make sure management wasn't working because they didn't allow that kind of shit. Sold us the Nintendo. And oh my gosh, I just remembered my adrenaline rush. And we took it home, and my dad didn't know how to hook it up. He had to get fucking my friend Jason, I think his name was Bartel. I don't even, yeah. His father hooked it up for my dad, showed him how it's done, and we were able to play Mario for the first time. But that's as far as I'm going with the Nintendo, except for one thing. This dum-dum did something stupid that broke the Nintendo. We eventually got another one, down the road, secondhand. But fucking Facebook, I'm sorry about that. I thought, let's use this Atari controller for reference. Okay? I thought, I didn't understand how tech worked. I didn't understand what PCB worked and all this stuff worked. Okay? So I took this purple dinosaur sticker, I shoved it right here in the PCB, shoved it in the Nintendo. I wanted to see if it would display on the screen, the dinosaur sticker. It didn't. Not only that, the sticker was stuck. And the Nintendo wasn't working anymore. Even when my dad opened it up and got it out, it still didn't work. I want to say the stickiness got on the car connectors and was having a hard time staying connected. If I knew that now, I would still have that same Nintendo I had as a child. Boy, was everyone mad at me. Of course, they didn't know about it right away because I didn't say anything. I was mad at myself because that was stupid. And to this day, there, I deserve that. Right. So that's my beginnings of a gamer. Now we're going to get into... I'm going to go ahead and show you the games I played mostly on the Atari. And talked about, if just random stories on that said game and how I got it. Things of that nature. So I hope you stick around for that. I'm going to go ahead and make this a two-parter. This is a story portion, and then you can load part 2. I'll put the link in the description for part 2, because I'm going to upload this all in one day. And I'm going to go ahead and share that with you. And I hope you enjoyed this story, though. I like to tell stories, and all this is 100% true. And I hope you enjoyed it. Now, if you didn't care, then, well, I can't. Yeah, that's just it. I mean, hopefully you're drinking their beer or something, because, that's what I like to do when I'm listening to people's stories. Fucking... Sorry, there's a reflection. I mean, it's bright in here. This is a fucking bright-ass room in this house. Anywho, okay, so part 2's coming up with gameplay footage. I'm going to shut my fucking mouth. I hope you all have a fantastic day, and hopefully I haven't bored you to death. I just wanted to go ahead and give you my beginnings of how it came about. A plot, a build-up. So... see you in part 2 with gameplay footage of Atari games.